Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're joining me for the first time, thank you very much for stopping by. Today I'm talking about being a single parent. So being a parent generally is hard, but being a single parent is even harder. So I'm talking about raising children in this modern society that I find is that, it's not like how we're growing up in Africa where the children are raised by a whole village. So it's not just your parents that are raising you, you have aunties, you have uncles, you have, your community all raising a child. But in this day and age, especially if you live abroad, it's different. I mean, the children, it's all your responsibility. You are responsible for them. So there are a lot of challenges that parents experience raising children. Obviously, I have friends who are single parents and they've shared their experiences with me. And even here in the UK, nobody plans to be a single parent, but as we all know, life happens. I mean, things happen and people find themselves in that situation. So what is the challenges? What is life like? So the first thing I see about being a single parent for women especially is childcare. Being a single mom, the childcare, I mean, issues about childcare is something I've talked about before in my previous video, and I know as it is for people in the UK here, it's the same thing for people all over America or Canada, wherever you are abroad. Childcare is really expensive. Sometimes you find that you are paying over a quarter or more of your salary for childminders or people who you have to keep your children with for you to go to work or for you to go to school. So it is very difficult. Sometimes if you're not very resilient as a woman and you're not determined that you want to make something out of your life, it's easy to just give up and say, what's the point? I'm earning maybe $2,000 and I'm paying over $1,000 for childcare, especially if you have more than one child, you have 2-3 children, then it becomes a problem. So childcare is one of the issues. It's not affordable at all. And then finding the right one is another one. Like a friend of mine told me, it's easy here in the UK for you to find childminders. They are everywhere, they are registered and they are monitored. But she said to me that even though you have the registered ones over there in America, they are not rigidly monitored like that. So as a parent, you worry leaving a child. Children are very vulnerable. So leaving your child to somebody who you don't know, a total stranger, you don't know what's going to happen. You're gone for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours and you don't know what's going to happen. So you worry. I mean, what is going to happen? What are they teaching my child? What are they exposing them to? Are they going to be, showing them or telling them things that I don't want them to be exposed to? For instance, she told me about an experience that she had with this childminder who was a hoarder, and I was really horrified. For those people who don't know, I actually work in an area where, I mean, in a sector where I actually come into contact with people who have hoarding issues regularly. Hoarding is a very serious issue. That is a situation whereby people hold on to things that they can't throw them out. So their houses are packed with all sorts of things, but the ones they need, the ones they don't need. So you have a lot of bulk items are everywhere. I mean, in some cases, I'm sure people who live in the UK may have seen that program about the hoarder who lives next door, where you see houses where people have newspaper, trash, anything. People have, I think it's been diagnosed as a mental health issues where people hold on to it. It's linked to mental health issues where people cannot throw things away. So that's one problem you have, affordability. Then you talk about the financial implication as well, which I've briefly touched on. The issue of paying for childcare, if you're a single mother or you're a single parent, is really expensive. It takes a large chunk of your income. So if you're working as a single parent, you're paying your rent, you're paying your bills, you're paying for food, clothing, and all that you need to do to sustain yourself as a single parent. Then having to pay child minding or having to pay for the cost of childcare is a huge investment from your pocket. So that's why you see a lot of families who have young children or a lot of single parents who can't afford to will go to Africa and bring their mother or bring their mother-in-law over to come and look after their child, because at the end of the day you are just working to pay. So you can't save. You can't really save anything because you're either paying the childminder, you're paying your bills, you're paying the rent, you're paying everything. So it's really hard for single parents or for single mothers out there, to be able to afford all these things in one income, which is, really quite difficult. Another thing that comes to mind when talking about being single or being a single parent with more than 2 children is about your career. Because parenting for me is a full-time job. That's why when I see women who are full-time mothers, I respect them. People say they look down on them like it's not a job. I think it's people finally it's beginning to be recognized now that being a mother is a full-time job. It's a role. So I think women should be proud of it. If you are working at home, it's even more difficult than going out there. For me personally, if you ask me to stay at home and not go to work, or to choose between staying at home to look after children or going out there, I'll choose going out there, because looking after children is hard work. It is hard work. There's so much that is involved. Any parent out there knows what it means to look after children. So in terms of career, it does impact on your career, because you can't be a full-time career woman or a full-time career man and be a good parent. That's just the truth. That's just the honest truth. It's not possible. You can't do both simultaneously. If you're the only adult in the family who is looking after children, and you've got a full-time job, then who's going to look after the children? One way or the other, one is going to suffer. So that's why you see people who are single parents, they have to do a part-time job, because the other time they need to look after the children, because there are so many things that are involved. You need to take the children to school, you need to pick them up. I know in America they have a system where they have buses who take children to school and bring them back, but still when they come back they need to be an adult, depending on the age, who is going to be picking them up. Or when they come to the house, there's got to be an adult who is at home. You can't leave your children at home and just go, and just lock them in the house and go if they are young, because before you know, the police will be calling you and saying we're in your house, and the children are left alone, they are not attended. It's not allowed, because it means that you're neglecting the children. So that's a challenge for single parent. So most times women or men who are single parents will have to put their career on hold in the interim while the children are growing up, so that they can actively look after their children, to ensure that every area of their life they are meeting their needs. So when they're a bit older, like when they get to secondary school, then you now pick up from there to go back to whatever job you want to do, or to improve yourself. Being a single mom or dad and dating is not always so easy. The challenge is being that you've got children, you've got to cook, you've got to look after them, you've got to do laundry, you've got to clean, you've got to do everything. So where is the time that you're going to date? Even if I know a friend of mine told me one time that she did try online dating, but sometimes again, going out there, you got to pay again. Then childcare, if you haven't got an adult at home who is going to be looking after the children, then what's going to happen? You might need to pay childminder or get someone to sit, which you have to pay to go out there. So sometimes when you think about all the hassles, you're like, I can't be bothered. So dating is really, really hard, because if you're alone, at some point, as a single parent or single mom or dad, you're thinking of going out there and actively dating to have a relationship. But when you've got these children who are there with you all the time that you have to look after, then where's the time for you to go and start dating? So it does insane. Then another worry for single mothers especially is that you worry the kind of man that you are going to date. Is it going to be good to your children? Is it going to love your children? I know they say no man can ever love children as much as their dad, but some people are lucky. They do find men who are able to accommodate them because of the love they have for them. They can love their children. But other issues that you worry about are like, is he a pedophile? Is he going to be touching my child when I'm not at home? We've heard stories, so many scary stories out there of boyfriends or relationships that women get into, that they'll go and impregnate their daughter when they are not at home. Or at night, they'll sneak into the daughter's room and start touching them, or start touching your son. So, for a parent, your priority always is your children. So when you think about things like that, you hear stories like that, it's scary. So you'll be wondering, oh my God. When you see people, all kind of things will begin to go through your mind that, oh my God, is this going to be safe? Are they Christians, or are they religious, or are they people who have morals, good moral standards, that they are going to be respectful and they are not going to do anything to harm your children? So that's another worry for single parents out there. Discipline. The thing about raising children is that as much as you love them, you provide for them, you meet their needs, both physical, spiritual, emotional. Discipline is very important, because especially people that are coming from African background, discipline is something that we grow up with. is if you don't discipline a child, then they're just going to run wild, which is something that we struggle with, when you live abroad, because you come to a society where children, are allowed to, they have rights, they're allowed to do whatever they like. They talk to their parents. Some of them who are not from homes where there's any sort of discipline, they just run wild. You see a little child talking to their parents anyhow, calling them names, which is something that I know African people can never ever tolerate, because we weren't raised like that. We didn't grow up like that. You have to respect your parents, you respect anyone that's older than you, which is something that is inculcated in us as children. So as a parent, you want to raise your children even though they live abroad, especially because they live abroad. You want those African morals to be in your child. You want them to grow up knowing that you respect your elders, you respect me as your mom, you respect your dad. You can't talk to us anyhow. So balancing that discipline with the love is always a struggle for single parent, because you are playing the role. For instance, if you're a single mom, you are the dad and you are the mom, so you're acting both roles. So sometimes it's a struggle to balance that caring and loving role which a mom is supposed to play, and that discipline and stern role that the dad is supposed to play, because you're just one person. So you can't necessarily just switch from playing the role of a dad and switch to playing the role of a mom. So it's kind of conflicting. That's why you find in some cases the children, they are confused, because 1 minute mom is happy, 1 minute mom is angry and shouting, because it's stressful. It's not easy. I really respect women who are raising their children single-handedly, because it's a lot of hard work for women out there. The greatest fear that a single parent has is for their children not to turn out well. And that's why sometimes you see some parents go overboard, because they just want the best for the child. And sometimes children, especially teenage children, if you have teenage children, you understand, they can be rebellious and they might not understand what you're trying to do, because every parent wants their children to excel, to do better than they did. They want them to do better, to improve in life, to be much more successful than themselves. So sometimes if you're not mindful of it, or you are not conscious of it, you may, as a single parent, go overboard, in your aim to ensure that they become successful. So if you are not careful, you might go overboard with the discipline, or you go overboard with the love. That's another one again, that's a problem. If you go overboard with the love, the children would just, they would just grow up without having any kind of moral compass at all. They will be running wild. They will not have any sense of what is wrong or what is right. But there needs to be discipline. Discipline is very important for children, because if they don't know that something is wrong, then they are likely to do it again. And if the more they can get away with things that are wrong, the more they are likely, to do things that are wrong. Because the thing about children is that they will test your boundary. They do test you to see if they're going to get away with it. And if they get away with something without you saying something, then they will do it next time, and they will do much more. But then again, as a parent, you don't want to be punishing your children. I did when I was a student at uni, I did a lecture about the difference between punishment and discipline. I might do it on a vlog one day, just for parents to know there is a difference. Punishment it doesn't achieve anything. It's just to punish. You punish out of anger, out of frustration. As a parent, you punish. It doesn't serve any purpose. But discipline is done for correction. You do it in a way to make the child understand that I love you, but this thing you've done is wrong, and I don't want you to do it again. And I want you to understand that there's a repercussion. When you do something wrong, there are consequences. So that's what discipline is. And discipline doesn't have to hurt all the time. We that grew up in Africa always believe that discipline has to be beating or smacking, or some parents go overboard. They just beat. I don't think it's necessary. We were beaten. Yeah, everybody that grew up in Africa will know that we were beaten, thoroughly abused. Some people were abused by their parents. I know a friend here who told me how traumatized she was with the beating that she received from her parent. Even though in our culture in those days in Africa, nobody sees it as anything. Everybody gets beaten, so it's nothing. But you can't do that in this day and age. I don't think it's necessary for you to go overboard with that. The important thing is for you to keep in view what you're trying to achieve. You don't want the children to be alienated. You don't want them to walk away knowing that you're wicked, or you mean to harm them, or you don't care. You're just angry. You're angry and frustrated. At the end of the day, it's just having that balance, between discipline and love, and knowing when it is time to show them love, to hug and kiss and say I love you, and when to say no. Don't do that. If you do that, there's consequences, and then to get for them to get the discipline, and then later on to explain to them why they are being disciplined is very, very important. I think that's another thing that we didn't really enjoy from our parents back home. You just get punished and there's no explanation. I think for today, in this modern day, children need to know when they are being disciplined why. You need to explain to them, this is why I have done this. You've been disciplined because you've done this. You are not bad. It's not, children are not bad. They do bad things. So, and that's why, because of your behavior, there's a consequences. And that's why this is. So it's been your girl Bridget Tekpo. Thanks for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and it's at Obodo TV. That's my handle on all my social media. Until I see you again next time, or over.